May 6, 1945. A small red brick schoolhouse in France. The fate of the world hangs in the balance. A Nazi general walks through the door, expecting champagne and handshakes. Instead, he's about to face the most brutal diplomatic humiliation. In history, the Supreme Commander refuses to even breathe the same air as him. What happens next will shatter the Third Reich forever. This is the true story of how one man's silence destroyed an empire, and it all came down to a handshake that never happened. The rain hammered down on Reims, France. Outside a modest schoolhouse, military police stood guard. This was Shah Hafsov Prime Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and tension. Generals from America, Britain, Russia, and France checked their watches nervously. They were waiting for him. A black car pulled up. Out stepped Colonel General Alfred Jodl, Hitler's right-hand man for 6 years. The architect of countless war crimes. The man who had signed orders to bomb London, invade Russia, and execute prisoners. He looked every bit the Prussian villain, monocle gleaming, iron cross hanging from his neck, uniform immaculate. He walked with his head high, radiating arrogance. Jodl expected a gentleman's negotiation. He expected brandy, handshakes, and respect. Most importantly, he expected to meet General Dwight D. Eisenhower as an equal. He thought he could still make a deal, still save face for Germany. After all, Admiral Dönitz had sent him here to play. For Tom to split the Allies, surrender only to the West, and keep fighting Russia. But down the hall, Eisenhower sat in his office. He watched Jodl arrive through the window, and then he turned to his aide and delivered an order that would echo through history. I will not see him. I will not speak to him. And I will not shake his hand. Tell him he is here to sign, not to talk. The game was over before it began. Jodl was escorted into the war room, a former classroom with a ping-pong table covered in green cloth. This would be the surrender table. He looked around, expecting to see Eisenhower. Instead, he faced General Walter Bedell Smith, Chief of Staff, known as the Hatchet Man. Where is General Eisenhower? Jodl demanded. His tone dripped with indignation. He was a colonel general. He outranked Smith. Surely the Supreme Commander would meet with him personally. General Eisenhower is not available, Smith replied coldly. You will deal with me. It was a calculated insult. Eisenhower refused to breathe the same air as the Nazi general until the war was officially over. The message was clear. You are not a diplomat. You are a prisoner. Jodl tried to play his cards anyway. We are willing to surrender to the West, he announced carefully, but we cannot order our troops in the East to stop fighting. They are terrified of the Red Army. Give us 48 hours to withdraw our forces. It was a trick. Jodl wanted those hours to save German divisions, to move them west, to perhaps fight again someday. He wanted to create a wedge between America and Russia. Smith's face turned red. He walked to Eisenhower's office and reported the Germans' game. Eisenhower stopped pacing. He crushed his cigarette. His eyes blazed with fury. He gave Smith an order that would break the Nazis completely. Smith returned to the war room with a message that would end everything. Smith didn't sit down. He loomed over Jodl like a judge pronouncing sentence. His voice cut through the smoke-filled room. General Eisenhower says no. No delays, no phases, no deals. Jodl opened his mouth to protest. Smith slammed his hand on the table. Listen carefully. You will sign the unconditional surrender immediately. If you refuse, the Supreme Commander will order the Allied lines closed. Jodl's face went pale. Closed? Yes, We will seal the Western Front. We will not let a single German soldier cross into our lines. We will force them back toward the Russians. Smith leaned in closer. And we will stop accepting German refugees. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Millions of German civilians were fleeing west at that very moment. Women, children, elderly people running from Soviet revenge. If Eisenhower closed the border, they would be trapped, slaughtered. Eisenhower was playing the only card that mattered. Human lives. Sign the paper, or watch your people die. Jodel's arrogance crumbled. His hands trembled. He asked permission to radio Admiral Dunitz. The coded message went out. Eisenhower insists on immediate total surrender. Threatens to close lines. No choice. Request permission to sign. Hours crawled by. Coffee cups piled up. Cigarettes burned to ash. The tension was suffocating. Finally, at midnight, the reply came through. Dunitz authorizes signature. The game was over. Germany had lost its last bargaining chip. And Jodel knew it. At 2:41 a.m. on May 7, 1945, cameras flooded the room with harsh light. Reporters climbed on chairs. The document lay on the table. Act of military surrender. Simple. Final. Absolute. Jodel's hand shook as he picked up the pen. He signed his name. The war that had killed 60 million people ended with a drop of ink. But Jodel still wanted the last word. He stood, adjusted his tunic, and spoke in English. With this signature, the German people are delivered into the victor's hands. In this war, both sides have achieved and suffered more than any other people in the world. He was asking for sympathy. For recognition of German suffering. He didn't mention the Jews, the concentration camps, the murdered children. He stood there, an architect of genocide, asking for pity. The room went ice cold. Nobody spoke. Nobody nodded. Stone faces stared back at him. Then came the message. General Eisenhower will see you now. Jodel straightened, thinking finally he'd receive soldiers' respect. He walked to Eisenhower's office. The Supreme Commander stood behind his desk, towering. He didn't smile, didn't offer a chair, and most importantly, he didn't offer his hand. To a German officer, a handshake meant honor. By refusing it, Eisenhower declared, "You are not honorable. You are nothing. You understand the terms?" Eisenhower's voice was ice. "Jawohl, that is all. A dismissal. Like dismissing a servant." Jodel saluted. Eisenhower barely nodded. "Get him out." The arrogant general walked out broken. Victory was complete. Eisenhower picked up 2 golden pens and formed a V for victory. His famous smile finally returned. He sat down and wrote the most powerful message of the war. Not a grand speech, just 5 words. The mission of this Allied force is fulfilled. General Jodel was hanged for war crimes a year later. Admiral Freiberg swallowed poison. And Eisenhower? He became President of the United States. The man who refused to shake a Nazis. And became leader of the free world. His refusal wasn't just an insult, it was a moral statement. The Nazis weren't just enemies who lost. They were criminals who broke the laws of humanity. By refusing that handshake, Eisenhower declared, "Evil deserves no respect, only justice." And that's how World War II truly ended, not with a bang, but with a turned back and ice-cold silence.